My name is Heidi McIndoe. Hold on. Here we go. And I am a registered dietitian. So that means I spend my days making sure people know that they can eat nutritious food that is delicious as well. Today's focus today is Make Ahead Freezer Meals, and it is brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Healthcare. So I'm going to talk a little bit about freezer meals, some tips for doing them, but we're going to make two delicious freezer meals. So this one is, all I did is I started browning my ground meat, and I'm going to start browning my other one as well, just so that you guys don't have to sit and watch meat brown. So I'm going to dump that in and turn that burner on while we use this one. So we are making two recipes today. We are making a super sloppy joes and what I call my family's favorite shepherd's pie. It's not really shepherd's pie because it's made with turkey, and that's not authentic shepherd's pie. But it's my version of a healthy shepherd's pie, and it's yummy. So all I started with, and actually both recipes are starting with the same base today. You can use lean ground beef, ground chicken, soy crumbles. Today I'm using turkey in both of them. Let's make sure that that's turned on. Oh, leave that in there. And I started with either a pound of ground meat, I should say, or, a lot of times the packages are like 20 ounces. So whatever, one package, 1 pound of lean ground meat. I was thinking I wanted to do something with like cut up chicken, but I couldn't find one I wanted to make today. So we're doing these. But like I said, they can be different. You can use different bases with them. The shepherd's pie, both of them are awesome with beef, with lean ground beef, but today I'm just using turkey. So over here, we've got and you've got two cameras here. So you've got this me and the cooking me, so you can see what's going on there. I don't know if that's any better or not. I think it's better without. All right, so like I said, all I did was brown the meat, and I'm trying to decide which I'm going to put in which pan. I think this is going to be our shepherd's pie. So once my meat is all ground up, or as it's browning, I should say, I'm going to add some onion. Now you can do a teaspoon of onion powder, or you can dice up some onion. I like to grate my onion because it really gets in there. I'll show you that. We only need a couple tablespoons of onion. And actually, if you really like onion, you can put more in. That's the cool thing about cooking for yourself. So when we grate the onion, it really, you can see it almost there. It just turns into like this yummy onion juice. I don't like to bite into onions, but I love to do this because I need the flavor. So we get this yummy onion juice, bang it in there. So with freezer meals, I love the idea of freezer meals because there's nothing better than coming home on a busy day and all you got to do is pop something in the oven or throw something in a skillet and warm it up. And I mean, yeah, we can do that with grocery store meals, but they tend to be higher in fat and salt, and you don't control what goes in it. This way we are totally controlling what goes in it. All right, so that's, we're going to leave our onion at that and find a spatula here to get that onion flavor all mixed in. And over here, all I've got going, I know you can't see it right now, it's literally just meat browning. Nothing exciting over there. All right, so we have got our onion in here. So the thing I love to do, so this shepherd's pie that I'm making, I've actually done this before. This is one of my favorite ways of doing this. Great if ground meat is on sale. Buy 2 packages, get 2 burners going, make 2 of them, put one in the oven for dinner, freeze the other one. And then in a couple of weeks, whenever you got a busy night, you can just pop it out and have a meal ready to go. All right, so we have added the onion, and now we need a little bit of carrot. So I'm going to pan down just so you can see me, the excitingness of me chopping carrots. Here we go. I just get one carrot, and I've already peeled it, and I just sort of dice it. Just adds another veggie basically in here. It's not a lot, it's a little something. And I want little bits. So I'm gonna slice it down like that. Do the same over here. So a lot of recipes. So the thing with me and frozen meals, so I prefer to thaw my frozen meals before I cook them. You can cook them from frozen, but for me, that sort of, my concern is that to get the center cooked all the way and thawed out, because now it has to thaw and cook in the oven, the edges are going to start to be dried out. Again, if you forgot to take it out of the freezer, no big deal. Go ahead and do that. You're just going to have to watch it. I do prefer to thaw my frozen meals in the refrigerator overnight. So it does require a little bit of thought. But if I know, usually, obviously things happen. Usually I'll know if I'm going to have a super busy day. And so I can thaw it out the night before, and it's not a big deal. So we are going to put, now if I had diced my onion, I would be adding it to these carrots right now, but since I grated it, I just popped it right in there. All right, and probably needed a bigger bowl. All right, we're getting our meat round over here. I think we'll get a slightly bigger bowl, because now what we're going to do is add 3 tablespoons of flour. And that's just going to be our thickener. We want this shepherd's pie to have a nice thick sort of gravy. All right, 3 tablespoons of flour. All right, now I had a lean ground meat, so I did not have to worry about draining any fat out. If you have some fat, you can drain that out. All right, so now what we're going to do is I have a cup of beef stock. What I actually did is, and just so you know, I have the chat open if you guys have any questions or comments as we're going along. I love this stuff better than bouillon, because I can make, this recipe calls for 1 cup of beef stock. I can make 1 cup of beef stock. It's a teaspoon of better than bouillon, cup of water, and there I go. Because if I open the whole big thing of beef stock, I may not use it within the time period that you're supposed to use it. This I really love because I can just make as little or as much as I want. So first we're going to add this to our nice hot pan. I'm going to turn up a little bit. And now we're just tossing our carrots. We're basically getting our carrots covered in some of this flour. Like I said, the onions would be here too if need be. All right, so we've got it all dusted. We have our white carrots here. And now I'm going to add this. Actually, you know what I'm going to add first? I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper right to my skillet. And I'm adding about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. I love the flavor Worcestershire sauce gives. And by adding it now, I'm getting the pepper and the Worcestershire sauce and that broth all combined. So it's all, all the flavor is spread out equally. All right, so now I'm going to just sort of get a section to dump my carrots in. My carrots in the flour. And I'm going to turn this up and bring it to a boil as I'm stirring. Okay, I'm going to go back over here. So the thing with freezing meals, all you really need to keep in mind is, so how are you going to freeze it? You want it wrapped well. So there's a couple of options. You can get, you can get freezable containers. So for the, whatever this stuff here is, the sloppy joes, that we can put in like a freezer safe bag or even like a reusable plastic kind of, freezer safe container. Because I'm going to, when I cook that, I'm gonna have to dump it into a pot and heat it up. My shepherd's pie, I actually have to prepare the pie so you can see, right, I don't know if you can tell, the sauce, the gravy's getting a little thicker. And I'm just gonna let this simmer for a while we swap out. So we bring it to a boil, and then we're gonna simmer this for about 15 minutes or so. Just, we wanna get those carrots to cook. So it's all bubbly, I'm gonna turn it down. And now I'm gonna move you guys over to the other pan, okay? So now we're at pan number 2. You can't really see it all. Here we go. So we're just gonna break up, our meat is almost brown. So the shepherd's pie, and we simmer this uncovered, by the way. I need to build that. So my options are to use my dishes, my Pyrex dishes, my whatever I have, which is okay. I'm not crazy about freezing things in those because I don't like the drastic, I know you're supposed to be able to do it. I'm not crazy about the drastic change of temperatures from cold to hot. With those, they take up a lot of room in the freezer. And depending on how many frozen meals I have, now I'm out of square baking pans or whatever it is. So I do frequently tend to use foil pans. I know it's not as environmentally friendly. So like I said, use whatever you prefer, but for me, it does work out to use the foil ones, things like that. And then, all right, so we're gonna get back to cooking. So we have browned the meat, and now we are going to add a little bit of brown sugar, about 1/4 cup of brown sugar. This is a little bit of a sweet sloppy joe, but my family loves this. That's why I call it our super sloppy joe. So there is our brown sugar. And I have a low sodium Montreal steak seasoning. I don't know what's all in here. It's like garlic and onion and peppers. I add about a couple teaspoons of this. 1, 2. And we are going to get us another spatula. And I'm just going to stir this all around. All right, so we're going to get that sugar and spice mixture right in with all of those meat juices. Again, I have a lean ground turkey. I don't need to worry about draining the fat, but I am going to add some pepper and onion to this. So let's pan you down again. So this one I am adding, I am chopping my onion. So I do it differently for different recipes. We want a medium onion. This is like a large onion, so I'm going to just use some of it. Sort of slice it. Again, I still don't like fitting into onions, so that's about as much as I get. I cut them in half. And now, because of the way onions grow with all those layers, I just do this around, and it automatically minces it for me. We're picky me with my onions. I'm going to go back in and just chop, chop, chop. Okay. Here we go. So this, oh, we spilled some. This is going to go in our, which one is this? Our sloppy Joe mixture. I'm going to end up with the wrong thing in the wrong pan. I think I just got some carrots in there. That's okay. It'll all cook down. Oh, I got to turn this way down. I've got not a lot of gravy left here, but I know my carrots need to cook a little bit longer. And I have, so it calls for about a small red pepper. I have a bunch of bits of peppers left over that I'd rather use these before cutting into a new one. I'm going to do that. All right, get all of our little pieces cut off. And the yellow one. So whatever color pepper you like will work. And I'm just going to cut them roughly the same size. So now, like I was saying, I do tend to use the foil pans for these. And then, like I also said, I do like to thaw them in the refrigerator overnight. That way, I can pop them in the oven at the same temperature the original recipe called for. They're all thawed in the middle. So all we are doing is really just heating them up. And that's just my preference. So like I said, if you want to do, soups and things like these, like the Sloppy Joes, just get some good freezer containers. And then you make your choice on casseroles like this. I tend to try to use the things within about 3 months. It is not going to go bad. It's not going to spoil. It's not going to make you sick if it's in there for longer than that. But at about 3 months, that's where food starts to, the quality just starts to deteriorate a little. Again, I certainly wouldn't throw it out. I would certainly eat it, but just be aware of that. So that's why it's also when you are doing this, especially if you're doing a lot, you want to make sure when you're freezing things that you label them well. I have a note on the outside of my freezer that reminds me what's in there. So when I'm planning my meals, I can say, oh, that's right. I've got XYZ in there. I can thaw that out one night. All right, so we want to cook our peppers and onions now in this Sloppy Joe mixture. And then while these are cooking down, we're gonna go back over to our shepherd's pie. Actually, I'm gonna try one of these carrots. I really don't think they're soft enough, but, oh, no, not done yet. So we're just gonna let that go. Let me make sure, add the onions and peppers. We need a little bit of, I've just noticed, I use cider vinegar, but the recipe actually says red wine vinegar in the instructions. I must type that wrong. About a tablespoon of, I like cider vinegar. You use whichever vinegar you like. I'm also going to throw about a tablespoon of that Worcestershire sauce in here. Okay. And we're going to let all that cook for about 5 minutes. So we're just going to keep that, let that cook down. We're going to watch this guy and stir him while I chat. So you want to, like I said, certainly label the foods. And if you are using foil or, dishes, whatever you are putting your food in, you want to make sure it is well wrapped. You don't want to get any moisture in there. That's what leads to air leads to the freezer burn, and that really deteriorates the quality of things. So you want to well wrap it. I tend to, I will wrap something, if it's got a tomato product in it, very acidy, I tend to put a plastic wrap over the food first because it can sort of deteriorate the foil. Then I cover it with foil, and then I wrap the bottom in foil and bring it up around the edges to really make sure it's airtight. Also, what works great is if you have a vacuum sealer, They have some of the vacuum sealer bags where you can cut it to your own length and they actually expand. And I can slide like a foil. Actually, I think I've slid my glass square dishes in there. And that makes it super airtight. So that's really good. And then I actually write on the foil or the vacuum bag, I write what it is, the temperature I need to cook it, and how long I need to cook it. Now, when I'm ready to use that recipe, I don't have to go digging it up or what do we do? Or if I'm not home and I'm counting on somebody else to pop it in the oven, I can just say, grab that thing out of the fridge and follow the instructions on it. So it comes in really handy that way. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you, like I said, I have my list on the outside of my freezer, so I know what's in there, but rotate items. Don't just keep putting stuff in. If you're adding a casserole to your freezer or a soup or whatever it is, take something from the back out, put the new one in the back so that you're constantly using the older item and the newer one gets put in the back. And that's a great way to do it. All right, so we are going to, like I said, I would prefer, oh, you know what I'm going to do? Well, no, I want my peppers and onions to cook a wee bit more. I would prefer my carrots to be done a little bit more, but for the sake of time, we're going to move on with our shepherd's pie. So what we're doing, I have a square baking dish, 8 by 8, 9 by 9, whatever works for you. And yes, I am using the glass one today because we're actually have this one for dinner and freeze that one. All right, so what I do is dump this all into my dish. I should have lowered my camera, but I'll show you in a minute what it looks like. Okay. All right, so we've got our shepherd's pie mixture. I'm going to spread this out. Okay, nice and even. And now I'm going to add another, not traditional ingredient. Traditionally, shepherd's pie has peas. I am using corn because my husband hates peas. Again, benefit of cooking at home. I don't, it's cooked exactly the way my family likes it. Okay, so I've drained a can of corn and I'm just gonna spread those all around. Now I've got some pre-made mashed potatoes, whether these are leftover from another meal, maybe you make extras the day, the week that you're making shepherd's pie, or you can get the pre-made at the store, whatever works well for you. You can use the frozen mashed cauliflower if you would like to boost your veggie intake, that works as well. So about 3 cups of the mashed potatoes. I'm adding about 3/4 of a cup of shredded cheese. Whatever kind you like. This is like a cheddar jack. This is a Mexican, so it's 4 cheeses. Yeah, I just, and I do tend to, it's only 3/4 of a cup. This is going to get divided into several servings, so I'm using the real cheese. All right, I am not a fan of reduced fat cheeses, so I tend to like to use the real stuff in smaller amounts. To me, it tastes better. Oh my gosh, sweet mashed. Yes, my mom actually recently made this with sweet potatoes and it was delicious. So yeah, mashed sweet potatoes would be great. Thanks for the idea. All right, so our cheesy potatoes are now all mixed. Oh, actually, I'm doing too many things. I was only supposed to put 1/2 cup of my cheese in there, but oh well. And now we're just going to make our little potato crust. Spread that. Oops, we lost some. There we go. spread this out. Yeah, my daughter and I would love this with sweet potatoes. My husband and my son, not so much. It's funny, my husband says he's the least picky eater in our house. It's really our daughter is the least picky, but he doesn't like peas, he doesn't like sweet potatoes. You judge who's the least picky one. Okay, so now spread that out. Grab a little bit more of that cheese since I put too much on or too much inside. Sprinkle it around and voila. Hold on. Voila, we have got a delicious shepherd's pie. I have made this before. This is a great dish if you have a friend, in the hospital or is coming home from the hospital. This is just one of those really comforting, great, delicious meals that you can bring over to them frozen. Could you use puff pastry instead of mashed potatoes? I'm sure you could. That would be delicious. I've never tried it. We're going to up the fat level there with that puff pastry. But I can't see why you couldn't. Everything is cooked. We're just heating it through. So as long as you're cooking the puff pastry long enough to get it cooked, that should heat everything equally as well. All right, so one dish ready to pop in the freezer. I would tend to, so it's hot because I got the hot meat in there. I would tend to let that cool. I would probably refrigerate it before I pop it in the freezer, just so it doesn't heat up the whole freezer. All right, so one dish down. Let's finish our sloppy joes. So we have got the peppers and onions and meat all cooked. Now we're going to add, I just have a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce. Okay, this is our juicy stuff. I am going to add a couple tablespoons of tomato paste. I love the tomato paste in the tubes because I only need a couple tablespoons. I don't need to, open a whole can. Although you can open the whole can and then freeze it in ice cube trays and have little bits left over. But I honestly, it is a little bit more expensive doing it in the tube. Probably. I've not priced it out. I would think the convenience of the tube would make it a little bit more expensive. But for the 3 times a year that I need to buy a whole tube, because most recipes call for the whole can. So for me, I'm fine with using that. And you know what? I do not like a little bit more. There we go. All right, so now all we are going to do is stir all this. We're going to reduce it, and it is just going to simmer. Not for long. It really doesn't take long. This is one of those things, let it simmer. The sauce is going to thicken up a little bit once the tomato paste gets sort of mixed in with that sauce. You don't want your sloppy joes too sloppy, too soupy. So I let this lightly simmer, sort of bubble, just until, like I said, it's thick enough and it is delicious. This is one of those great meals that you can make and sort of have it, maybe you're not sure when everybody's getting home or somebody's getting home late. You can have this sloppy joe sort of ready to go. Just keep it down low and anybody can serve out when they get home. So if we were freezing this, again, once I was done simmering it, and I might simmer it just to sort of almost under simmer it, so not let it thin out or not let it thicken up almost too much. I would put it in a bowl to chill it, put it in either a bowl or a Ziploc bag, freeze it. And if I do it in a Ziploc bag, I try and freeze it flat so it's nice and doesn't take up a lot of room. Again, label it with what it is, what I need to do to it. And then when I go to use it, so you could, with the sloppy joe, because it's going into the pot, you could sort of, as it's frozen, sort of put it in there and let it thaw on its own. It's going to be very easy to tell what's hot and still frozen. So the sloppy joes don't necessarily have to be thawed out. but you could thaw it out, just pop it in the pan, heat it up for a few minutes and you're good to go. Grab a couple rolls. And you're good. Or, you know, if you're trying to not eat so much of the rolls, this would be delicious, scooped over like some brown rice, almost like a chili. It's a little sweet for chili, but still good. So that is it. I'm going to let that simmer away for a few minutes, but those are our 2 freezer meals. We talked about tips for freezing and how to freeze, labeling. Oh, that is a big hunk of pepper. My son's not going to like that one. But do you guys have any questions about any of this or comments? Over brown rice sounds good. Yeah, much less messy. The sloppy Joe turns out to be not a sloppy Joe when you serve it over brown rice. Oh, and these are just really bubbling up over here, nice and thick. All right, so I'm just gonna stir this so it doesn't get sauce all over my phone camera. Any other questions? Otherwise, that's those are our recipes. And I think, Andrew, to get the recipes, can they email you? So either Andrew will either put her email in the comments and you can email her, or you just reach out to whoever you signed up through to get this link. And whoever sent you the link, ask them about getting the recipes because I sent them over. Oh, great. All right, so Andrea put her email in the link and that's how you can get both of these recipes. And for both of them, I have instructions. If you just want to, you don't have to freeze these. You could just make them fresh and eat them right away. So the recipes have those instructions as well. All right. And if that is it, then I will say goodbye. I hope everybody. Oh yeah, I'll do that. I gotta make a note. I'll do that as soon as I log off. And Andrea the recipe, so she will have them. All right. So I'm going to log off and I hope everyone enjoyed this and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.